So this thing I'm going to show you is one of my animals. I haven't did one on a skid loader attachment for a long time, so I figured I'd show you this animal here. I've been working on this thing quite a while, and I'm still trying to get the bugs out of it. It has been a nightmare, but I'm gaining on it. It's a store-bought grapple that I bought. It's a real heavy-duty grapple, and if you watched my my big log splitter, you know that I saw big logs, and this is why I made this thing, was to help me. So me running a 36-inch saw, it's I'm getting to the point where it's pretty hard on my old back. So I made this thing here to help my back and sit in the seat, and anyhow, trying to get it ironed out. But it really it's quite the project to take on, and I'm going to show you how it all works. So if you look right here, you'll see where I've added on these little spikes, and what that's for is to hold the log. When this thing clamps the log down, it holds the log so that the log can't spin. That was one of the first problems I was having, was the log tried to spin inside the jaws. Then I built a stabilizer because the bar started to wobble. So if you see this big chunk of rubber right here, it comes down and it starts touching here, and it slides all the way down as it goes, and it keeps the wobble out of that bar when that chain's running. We put two bearings back to back, greasable bearings back to back here. Our hydraulic drive motor here. We built a rim hub. This is called a rim hub. We built a rim hub to fit the shaft of our hydraulic motor. We built slides that it slides on. We drilled and threaded the bar for 1/8 inch pipe thread, which this goes to my bar oil. And if you look up here, you'll see this little ball valve that turns the bar oil on and off. So what I do is I turn my bar oil on when I get ready to start sawing something, and I don't turn it off until I get done doing what I'm going to do. The hydraulic cylinder here runs the bar up and down. This is a flow control, and this was a pressure regulator, inline pressure regulator, that I was going to run back to return on the back side here, but I've yet to do that. I'm still waiting to see how it's going to act now, since I've changed some hydraulics around. When it's rolled back and all the way down, the hoses are close to the tracks, but they're really not touching. They look like it, but if you keep it rolled forward a little bit, you'll find out that it works fine. So I put a pressure gauge here that you can see from the cab to see how much pressure your system's running on. I put a 3-spool electric control valve that controls my jaws, it controls my bar up and down, and it controls my chain off and on. I put a switch inside the cab that runs the chain, it runs the clamp, and it runs your feed. All 3 switches are right there. I run Deutsch electrical connectors that connects the whole thing to the valve body that runs it. So if you look at this thing, you'll see that it's removable. So if you take this one bolt out, and you take these 5 bolts out, there's a lifting lug right here. You grab a hold of this with a shackle, hang it from your pedestal crane or wherever, and the whole thing comes off. When it comes off, you'll see there's a flat face coupling here and a flat face coupling here. So these 2 lines here run the run the jaws. So once you take the chainsaw off, these two lines now come over and hook up to your bobcat, so you've just got a plain old grapple again. You've removed the saw completely, all the hoses, lines, and electrical completely, and you hook this back up to the bobcat and you just run it as a grapple. So it's pretty universal as far as taking it off and on. It takes you about 20 minutes to take it off. Takes you about 20 minutes to put it on. Nothing complicated about it. I've changed this motor several times. It's actually made for a high flow machine. I made it for a high flow machine. This machine right here is not a high flow machine, so I'm pretty short on oil supply. It takes a lot of oil to run this. When you're starting to run two functions at one time, especially when you're running a big drive motor like this and running your cylinder down at the same time, it takes a lot of oil. That thing requires a lot of oil, and this machine really doesn't have it. But it has been handy. It has been a pain, and I'm still working on it. But I keep a gauge in here so I can see how much, what really works out good is when somebody like my son is here, this little Allen screw, you take this Allen screw loose and you can set your bar speed, how fast your bar goes up and down by turning this flow control. So it works pretty well. Thing that this bar and chain is a 3/4 inch pitch Oregon chain, and if you look at the specs on that chain and what they call chain shot, so if this thing was running and that chain was running wide open, chain shot is if that chain was to break, how far that chain would go. They said that chain will fly 100 feet in either direction. So you want to make sure when you're running this thing that there is absolutely nobody around you because of chain shot. Thing throw the chain off, man, that wouldn't be good. We'll walk up here and lay my hand against that chain and show you how big that links are on that chain. That's another one of my problems, is it is so aggressive. If I had a smaller chain, I'd be a lot better off, which I haven't ruled that out yet, but to give you an idea of how big the links are on this chain. So this bar from the center here to the tip is 42 inches long. It's a lot of saw. Takes a lot of power. It's a lot of saw. I was going to show you too, back here on the back, right here on this cylinder, you'll see this rubbing block here I've put on the back to stabilize the back end of this cylinder. So this rubs on this piece of 1-inch plate. As the saw pivots down, it rubs up against this 1-inch plate. So I'm stabilizing it from the back, and I'm stabilizing it from the front right here when this comes down and starts running down here. So it gets the wiggle out of that bar when that bar's running. If I was to make this again, I would take and I would remove this hydraulic cylinder and I'd put in a 12-volt lineal actuator with a PWM in the cab where I could speed up and slow down with a rheostat switch from inside the cab. So when you come to a great big log, you can slow it down, and when you come to a little bitty log, you can speed it up. But bit a hold of this log, and that's the way I store it. That's enough weight to offset this, and you can park it here, and it's not going to go anywhere. Works out real well. So if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.